But what is cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity just is a layer that secures all of the data.
By the end of this year, on an average, there will be 7 connected devices per human on the planet. It's massive.
This little hyper perception that somebody's listening to you all the time, watching you all the time.
These devices are listening, and that's why we need much better safeguard.
I have a slightly different take on this, which is I don't think the devices are listening to us unless it's an Alexa-like device.
AI has been a buzzword in cybersecurity for a while now.
And everybody's scared, nobody feels safe. How do you think that this environment, will it become worse? Okay.
I think one of the scariest parts about AI is this whole area of voice creation or voice emulation and deepfakes.
Hello friends, welcome to another episode of B Cubed, Breaking Boundaries by Sabir Bhatia. So the boundary we are going to break today has something that concerns all of you: cybersecurity and deep tech. So, with all the cyber frauds and so much that's happening, cybersecurity has become a matter of the greatest of concern. So, we have a very special guest with us this evening, the young and bright Antar Virk. He is a product of the IIM, Ahmedabad, and he's the co-founder and CEO of Subconscious Compute. Earlier, he co-founded a startup called Showtank, if I'm not mistaken, which pioneered in B2B e-commerce startups. Subconscious Compute now, what he's doing is a deep tech endpoint management and security startup. So very relevant to the subject that we are discussing here. More than that, there are two things he loves to do, which he shares in common with Sabir Bhatia. One is long distance cycling, and he does real long distance, as also golf. So, welcome to the show,
Pleasure. Thank you so
Antar.
much.
And the first question that I would like to put to you is that, we say cybersecurity all the time, but what is cybersecurity? Can you make it simple for our friends on the other side to understand what exactly is cybersecurity?
Certainly. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. Really a pleasure to be here. I'll just kind of draw a parallel to kind of make it more relatable, so to say. So if you look at, let's say, draw a parallel between, and I love drawing parallel to human body that way, right? Because there's a lot of work we do, and that's the reason why we call the company also Subconscious, right? So when you look at the human body, right? So it's designed to kind of do certain functions throughout the day, throughout the lifetime of a human being, and similarly for all other species, right? But off and on, you have a lot of external factors, or I would say adversaries, which kind of keep impacting your body over time. And you have to kind of fight through those periods, right? Your human body has the tendency to kind of fight on its own. And then there are times when you get infected with few things where you have to kind of lean on medicine to kind of take help, right? So if I have to kind of categorize them, so essentially there are two defense mechanisms at work, right? The first defense mechanism is prevention, essentially immunity, the way we kind of call it, right? And your body has certain antibodies and the function and pieces that makes sure that whatever threat comes your way, you're able to protect yourself from it, right? And the second piece is what we call largely curative or medicine, which is essentially if you God forbid, do get infected, then there is a recourse where you basically diagnose what the problem is, and then you take a course in terms of just handling what you're kind of suffering from. Then there's a course of medicine, and then you basically restore the body back into shape. So essentially what you're doing is that human body is meant to be in a certain state and in a certain style and working fashion. And then there are interventions to make sure that it remains in that state, right? Similarly, when you look at devices, when you look at your IT infrastructure, if you look at cloud infrastructure, a lot of IoT devices, right? Now, all of these devices are brought to the world with the certain intent and function in mind, right? And they kind of transform and kind of keep doing their function on a day-to-day basis. But what happens is, because there is a lot of data which is flowing through these devices, right? There are adversaries out there who would want to kind of either bring the device down or maybe want to steal your data. So there are a lot of threats to these devices on a daily basis. So hence, just like the corollary from a human body, there are solutions out there which try to make sure that these devices never get infected. And then there are solutions out there where saying, if by chance they do get infected, how do we restore them back to the shape? So basically, cybersecurity is just this branch, I'll not call it science, but this branch of, let's say, function or management, where you're essentially ensuring that the devices are always in the state they are intended to be, right? So in a very, very simple terms, that's what cybersecurity is for.
I see. So, Sabir, what do you think of the relevance of cybersecurity at this juncture?
Oh, absolutely. It's very important because anytime we produce data of any kind, whether it's financial data, personal data, corporate data, you have to secure it. Cybersecurity just is a layer that secures all of the data. And data leakage can happen through devices, happen through sensors, can happen through anything that connects to the internet, if you will. So it's all about management of your data and keeping your data secure. And I think that is another way of looking at what cybersecurity is: securing your data.
So, with the proliferation, of electronic devices, all kinds of devices, smartphones, drones, smart infrastructure, electronic sensors, and all that, there is a heightened concern for cybersecurity.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I mean, I think there's a study which says by the end of this year, on average, there will be 7 connected devices per human on the planet. It's massive, right? A lot of estimates say that we will actually have more than 200 billion connected devices by 2025, 2030. Essentially what you see is that world is now essentially a mesh of connected devices, right? And all of these devices, as we were saying, is what is a device at the end of the day? It is just a medium to create and consume data, right? So it's your window to the world that way, right? So you've created these information highways on which this data is flowing. And now this data, also with proliferation of devices, what is happening is this data on a daily basis is actually getting more sensitive and personalized, right? Because when it was about your computer, you usually held, as Sabir was saying, corporate data on those computers. The moment it came to the phone, it became your personal data because you started clicking pictures, you started adding a lot of personal pieces to this data. The moment this device actually becomes a pacemaker which is connected to the internet, it has your health information now. So it will continue to get more personalized and hence more sensitive, and hence it's even more imperative to make sure that data is secure.
And today, to add to that, virtually every device you have in your home is connected to the internet. Your swimming pool is connected to the internet. Your fridge is connected. Your toaster oven is connected.
Toaster is
connected. Even your doors are connected to the internet, and your lights you can turn on and off through the internet. So imagine the worst case scenario. If somebody really has to mess with you in your home, they can turn the temperature of your oven to 500 degrees. They can, if they, bad actors can. So all these devices are generating data, and we have to protect not just the data, but even the operation of these devices, because these devices can be remotely operated. Today, sitting over here with an app, I can, turn on all the music in my home, make the windows go haywire, go up and down, freaking out my family. But I mean, of course, I wouldn't do that. But if some bad actor were to get a hold of that, they could do that. I mean, that's the power and what the internet affords you. But with power comes also the bad side to it, which is it can be subject to theft, and it can be subject to disruption.
So, Antar, absolutely, Antar. I sometimes I've heard this off and on when people are sitting together and they kind of this little hyper perception that somebody's listening to you all the time, watching you all the time. That kind of an environment, electronic environment you have around you. So, for example, you think of something. How does this happen? Maybe I'm wrong, but you think of something. You're thinking of a holiday, and when you go to your phone, and you maybe
see
go
the
to
ad.
the Facebook, suddenly you'll see an ad on a holiday resort, or holiday packages. How does this happen? It really happens. Some people have reported this to happen. Is this just a figment of imagination, or there is some truth in this?
I would say there's a lot of truth in this. So incidentally, obviously, I'm in cybersecurity and my wife is a marketeer. And I'll give you one real anecdote on this. So we are exactly in the same camp. We feel that your phone is listening to you because your microphone is pretty much always on, and there are ways to kind of triangulate that data and basically triage it into a lot of insight from that side of view, right? Because if you ask me honestly, your true personality reflect from the kind of conversations you have, and if somebody could actually snoop on those, though it's very spooky, but it's a treasure trove of marketing data, right? That ways. And because, as I said, my wife is a marketer, so we also experience something very similar, right? So we would kind of just be conversing, and all of a sudden we'll see an ad on one of the platforms of the same thing. And incidentally, her being a marketer, in fact, one of the nights we were kind of having a chat about exactly planning a trip, right? And something funny really happened. So instead of talking to me, she started talking to the phone, and the conversation was like, "I know you're listening. Now anyway, you're going to show me the ad, so I'll give you enough data points so that you show me the relevant one." So she actually narrated what she exactly wants to do in that holiday where she wants to go, so that the ads are more targeted when they really pop up. So yeah, so that conversation is always on, if you ask me honestly, and these devices are listening, and that's why we need much better safeguards. To be honest, there is a lot of work which is happening across the world to kind of enable that. Maybe we are kind of lagging a bit, but if you look at GDPR in European side of the world, there is a lot of promising work which has happened around data security, and there are like some very good strides which have been kind of done there. So I'm saying sooner or later we'll also get there, because I think preserving your data and having the right over your data, it's also is a fundamental right. So we have to secure that.
I have a slightly different take on this, which is I don't think the devices are listening to us unless it's an Alexa-like device, which is obviously installed in your home, and you're doing it because you want to have the ability to talk to it. So it's constantly listening to you. But I think humans, we think we are very different from each other. We're actually quite similar. So if you have read, for example, just in your past 24 hours, 6 articles, and those 6 articles somehow subconsciously you're thinking of a vacation, you are not too dissimilar from someone else who has read those very same 6 articles, and after reading those very same 6 articles has gone on to book a vacation. And so it's AI, big data is analyzing your reading patterns, and from that, it is deciphering or inferring, most likely, that you are looking for a vacation. That is what is really going on. And this was proven in language. When they wanted to test how modern AI was, how good it was at translation, they took a Japanese novel, translated it using this modern AI into an English novel, and then translated it back to the Japanese, and it was word for word the same as the original one. So now, and this was the big difference between the old algorithmic form of AI, which was, an if then else, if this do this, if that do this, and this neural network based AI. And that was the big shift that happened. So I would, posit that not just one other person, but maybe 500 other people read those same 6 articles, and a majority of them made a booking for some vacation. So AI read your mind and automatically pre-populated an ad showing you that you most likely were looking for a vacation because you read those same articles.
So, Antar, what do you think of the role of AI and ML and all that in cybersecurity?
So I think a lot of technologies in AI, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, they always have like two sides to a coin, and I think AI is no different, to be honest. Because if you look at it, right, there is this report which says that cybersecurity actually is one of the early adopters of AI on both sides of the fence, right? So there's a lot of, and AI has been a buzzword in cybersecurity for a while now, right? So you are using a lot of models as far as AI is concerned, even deep neural nets, even generative AI now on the defense side of things. But the flip side is that the same models are also accessible to your adversaries. So now we are kind of soon entering in a world where it's going to be AI versus AI, right? So as far as cybersec is concerned, the good or the bad thing is that it is a nuanced field. So you can build certain kind of automations, you can build certain kind of promises on AI, and then you can rely on them to kind of solve half of your problems. But the cumulative effect of securing devices, securing data comes only when you actually have very skilled people who could also work along with these tools to actually build really good defenses, right? So that ways, I think the battle will be AI versus AI, but as long as you have the right kind of soldiers on the right side of the fence, I think it will kind of continue to evolve from there. But yeah, it will be. I mean, when you look at AI from a cybersecurity point of view, it will be on both sides of the aisle.
So he very correctly put it, AI versus AI. It almost brings back to my memory, those spy versus spy uh, comics that we, intelligence versus intelligence. That's the same. Anyhow, so there's a lot of bank frauds these days and cyber frauds, and everybody's scared. People are getting calls, and all this happening. Nobody feels safe, uh, especially in this aspect. How do you think that this environment will it become worse? Will it be contained? What is the solution?
So I think AI is one of those things where the rabbit is out of the bag. So and once it's out of the bag, it's very hard to kind of put it back. So similar is the case with social media, proliferation of information, proliferation of devices. So if you look at it, right, so frauds were always there. It's not that the fraud itself is a new concept. But with what happens with social media, proliferation of information and devices is that you are basically attack surface increases, right? So a person who, in the absence of all of these technologies, could impact maybe a certain section of people in a small town, now could have reached up to, let's say, internationally, right? So now, I mean, there have been so many episodes where you will have a call center in one country and they're actually duping people in another continent, right? Because now you have the arsenal and that kind of reach. So I think at the baseline, it will be largely about distinction in terms of something being genuine and not being genuine. The avenues of those, I mean, the spread in terms of how many things you can do in terms of, and the kind of arsenal you can have if you want to really commit fraud will keep exploding because the possibilities are coming in and they will keep exploding. And hence, I mean, like anything else, right? You can use this for good and you can use this for bad, right? So we will have. I mean, this will be a continued problem and it will keep exploding as I said. But what I would want to kind of underscore is that there's a human element to it, right? So like and always was with fraud. So as long as we can build right awareness, we can build right kind of tools for people to kind of really do and cross check. So this is going to be a continuous affair. I mean, you cannot really train your people and then you say, okay, they are trained. And I mean, there's a statistics in cybersecurity that people are so gullible at the core because people will be people, right? Because we are built to trust people, right? So it's very hard not to trust. I mean, you have to kind of go against your psyche to do that. And the anecdote in the cybersecurity is that actually, if you tie somebody's hands to the chair, they will actually lick the neck, right? So because we are built like that. So no amount of training is like enough training. So we'll have to kind of keep hammering the same message, keep empowering them with the right tools, with the right information, so that this kind of happens as less as possible. But will it go down to zero? I don't think so.
Okay.
I think one of the scariest parts about AI is this whole area of voice creation or voice emulation and deepfakes. Now, today, AI can take just a clip of your voice and completely recreate any sentence that you would have So imagine you calling me and telling me to give you some information that you wanted from the same phone number that is yours. That's how it would appear to me.
And same voice.
And same voice. Of course, I trust you. I would give that to you, right? That is the scary part of AI. That it can completely emulate human beings. In fact, Sam Altman and OpenAI has been, not sued yet, but this an actor, I forget her name. She's from South Africa. Her her voice was used as one of the 5 voices when he did the Chat GPT 4.0 demo.
Okay.
And so she, called in and said, "How come you were using my voice? So you're infringing on my, personal property, because my voice is my personal property." And so that's the scary part of AI, that just given a small amount of your, data about your voice, it can completely replicate your voice.
No,
That
and
that really
to
is
be honest, I
scary.
mean, just to add to it, and actors are always getting smarter, right? In fact, on the same piece, I mean, this has kind of been laid like 3 times over, if you ask me honestly. So there was a recent incident where somebody received a message from their boss, and this person is in banking, right? To wire some money to an account. No, obviously nobody's going to wire money to an account, especially in the quantum of millions, just because their boss actually called them from a number. So as a second step, the actor actually arranged a Zoom call, right, with this person. As a third step, the actor actually added his colleagues to the same Zoom call. So imagine if you are this one person, you have seven of your colleagues in that same Zoom call where you discuss that we have to wire this money to this certain account with certain amount of money. Now, at this point, you will actually wire that money. But they later found out after the money was wired that everybody on that Zoom call, apart from this guy who wired the money, was not real. Everything was AI.
Virtual reality.
Yeah. That's the scary part.
Very, very dangerous, I must say. So, but what about data protection and I mean, personal data and data protection policies? Would you throw some light on that?
Certainly, I think one of the pillars of cybersecurity, if you ask me honestly, is that there has to be a lot of interest from the state, where basically you have to lay down very good governance, so that all the actors within the ecosystem also know that they have to be very, very prudent in terms of how they secure data. Not only, I mean, their data, but also, for example, if I'm a company who has a lot of customer data, I have to take enough measures that actually that I secure that data, right. And as I was saying earlier, across the globe, now there have been movements which are very concrete movements, especially starting with GDPR on the European side, which has kind of made a very good framework in terms about how the data should be created, how the data should be preserved, stored, shared, right? And how do you really put people in charge of their data, right? So similarly, India is also kind of taking few strides. We have the DPDP Act now, where you basically get enough guidance in terms of how do you really treat data of your customers, right? And there are like absolute, I mean, there are quite stringent punishments built on top of it if you're not really following the norm there, right? So I think from the regulatory lens, cybersecurity's one big pillar is that you have to build compliance into the story, so that at least, on the very least, the organizations do that much to be sincere about that act, right? So and anything on the top is actually, to be honest, a bonus.
So, what about national data and the need to sort of protect it to the extent of making it stay within national boundaries?
Right. So that is again one. I mean, most of the governments right now are enforcing those kind of pieces. If you look at it, right, data residency is actually a big piece wherever we go now. So we operate in more than one countries. So whenever we are kind of whichever geography we are operating in, we are kind of mandated, and we make sure that the data residency actually stays within the same state, because I mean, it's actually more problematic for the people who are storing that data if they actually don't follow that, to be honest, because tomorrow the repercussions could be very, very crazy, right? So that is just one step in terms of residency of data. But as I said earlier, I mean, you have to put more layers on top of it to make sure that even while you're maintaining the residency, it's actually secure in that country as well, because just data being in that country doesn't make it secure, because everybody else also has access to that data, right? So, and there are a lot of state actors at play now. If you ask me honestly, cybersecurity actually is to be honest, is cybercrime is a warfare now, and there are a lot of state actors at play. I mean, if you look at smart cities and critical infrastructure, I mean, if you would have read about, let's say, Colonial Pipeline hack, right? Dallas City brought to its knee just because their infrastructure was hacked. So now it could actually be used as a potential state weapon, if you ask me honestly, because if you bring a city's infrastructure down, you can literally bring that city to its knees, right? So now it's a problem even at the level where you have to put things in practice that you have to kind of prevent yourself from this entire country versus country problem, right? So it's kind of at that scale as well.
Sabir, what's your take on this?
No, I think I don't know if data per se has to be physically resident in one country. That's how countries are thinking today, because as Antar said, that it still is accessible to other people. It's the security aspect which is more important than the physical location of data aspect. And I think this is an evolving area where we will come up with solutions that ultimately make data safe wherever it resides. It doesn't matter where it physically is located. But I would like to switch subjects and add a layer of interest to this discussion by talking about quantum computing and its effects. Because one of the things about quantum computers are they are like supercomputers that can even break through the most most currently the strongest of encryptions that we currently have. And so what kind of a world will we live in when we have quantum computers very rapidly decoding and breaking security ciphers, or these encryptions? And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Certainly. No, so that's obviously a very valid concern. Before I kind of answer that, I mean, there's this very peculiar analogy that is kind of coming to my mind. So when you think about cybersecurity, right, a lot of it is actually influenced by physical security, right? So the reason why first of the viruses were called Trojans is because of what happened to Troy, right? Why perimeter is called perimeter? Because in physical security, the way we always felt safe was by building a wall, right? So when you look at the original security script, so it was
Firewall,
all about
same
building
thing.
a firewall and putting the assets in the middle, right? So we have kind of evolved, and we still think of security like, for example, what is encryption? It's just keeping secrets, right? So so with quantum computing coming in, that problem is very real, because you can brute force your way through encryptions now, because obviously now you're operating at multi-dimensional computing, and hence it becomes like a child's play to break at least 7-8 bits of encryption, if not 256 bit. Even though I feel that 256 bit is also like not something that will stand against quantum computing that ways. I think then we have to kind of change the game. Then we have to kind of maybe shun the cryptographic way of working altogether and find out new solutions. And we have been kind of evolving that way, if you ask me honestly. Back in the day, we were so reliant on a username and a password,
Yes.
right? But no longer. Now, in fact, bulk of the accesses are passwordless and still more secure, because you have multi-factor pieces built into it. So I think the way I think about security, and especially access management and security of data, I think we have to kind of think of newer ways of generating these factors, so that even though you might have the biggest of the computing superpowers with you when the quantum community kind of becomes reality from that point of view, but the moment you frame the problem a little differently, you might actually find solutions which at least one of the factors that can't be broken by that, right? So I think that is the only way to deal with that problem. And good thing is we are kind of already underway to kind of solutions like that.
Wonderful. I think you summed it up very well. And Sabir, what with your expert comments, I hope this has been a learning experience for our viewers. Thank you very much, friends, for being a part of this show. And should you have any questions, put your questions on the BCube Showreel app, which you can download from App Store or Play Store. Send us your questions, and I'm sure Antar and Sabir will be very happy to answer your queries. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
being
Thank you.
here.